Hey, everyone. I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. Hope you've had an amazing week. For those of you who tune in every single Tuesday to Mental Health Moment, welcome back. We are here live every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. For those of you tuning in for the very first time, it's Dr. Hammond here with your Mental Health Moment. We are here live every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. And for those of you who are watching the replay on Dr. Nekeshia Hammond YouTube page, be sure to like this video, share this video, and subscribe to the page. So welcome here. Thanks again so much for tuning in to today's Mental Health Moment. If you are new to Mental Health Moment is all about how do you work on becoming the best version of who you are so you can show up powerfully for yourself and for the people around you. So let me know where you are tuning in from today in the comments. Apologies for being a bit tardy today. Today has been one of those days where you're like, what is going on here? Is there full moon or something? Yeah, all sorts of things. One thing after another, but all good. Here I am. Not where I thought I'd be, but it is what it is. So again, thanks for those who are starting to join here. Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. For those of you who are new to mental health moment, I do reside in the Tampa Bay area of Florida. And we are here live, as I mentioned, every Tuesday. So, you know what? Let me give you a couple quick announcements here first. But if you're going to be in the Tampa Bay area, then I will be speaking at a conference called The Gathering, and it is in Tampa. I'll put the link to register in the chat, but it is in Tampa, July 23rd through the 25th. It is hosted by Bishop M.B. Jefferson, Dr. Brenda Jefferson, and Bishop Designate Calvin Jefferson. I'm very excited to be there. It's tagged on most of my social media too, if you follow me on there, how to register, but I'll put it really quick. You can hear me. Okay, good. I'll put it really quick here in the chat as well, just if you want more information about it. There are, and of course I put in, okay, don't do that one because I left off the L. Hold on, y'all. Let me try that again. It's WAF in case you're listening and cannot see the screen. WAF as in Frank, international.org. Okay. There's the information to register for that. But yeah, there's going to be amazing spiritual leaders there. There are people from all different expertise there. Mental health, of course, will be there. I'll be talking about mental wellness, of course, when I'm there, and like a huge group of amazing speakers throughout those couple of days of the conference. So again, check it out. It's in Tampa, July 23rd through 25th. It's called The Gathering 2026. And I put the link in here if you want to get more information. WAF as in Frank, international.org. Okay, so I think I can, greetings from North Carolina. Okay, I can finally see some. And Chicago, welcome. Finally see some comments coming in. I never know what in the world is going on. In case some of you all who are not new is like, why in the world are we almost 30 minutes late? Because the day has been crazy. I had some emergency plumbing situation, and long story short, they're coming tomorrow, and hence I am in a hotel tonight, but it's all good. It's all good. So here I am. I'm happy to do mental health moments still today with the crazy day that today was. But nonetheless, again, Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. Today's topic, I have a question for you all. You guys can put it in the chat. But I don't know if you've heard the term before. So there's a term in psychology. It's called the corrective emotional experience, right? And basically, they're just saying you can't change the past. You can't go back, to your past. You can't rewind time. Like, we've all heard those sayings. And yes, of course, that is true. You can't change things that happen to you. However, there's something called a corrective emotional experience where you can still think about that situation differently, right? So you can actually still have more positive emotions, more understanding about the situation. And that's why it's literally called a corrective emotional experience. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips today about that. But I do want to ask you all to put in the chat, if you were to give advice to your younger self, what would that look like? Right? Like, what would it be? So actually, I'll put the question in the chat too. What advice would you give to your younger self? No right or wrong answers. And I apologize for my LinkedIn family. For some reason, whenever I put things into this chat, it does not go to LinkedIn. It goes to YouTube, it goes to Facebook, but it does not go to LinkedIn for some crazy reason. But nonetheless, let me know, what advice would you give to your younger self? And the reason why that's important is because what do they say? Like, hindsight's 2020, right? So it's easy for us, and maybe 5 years later out of a situation, or 10 years later, or even a week later out of situations, and it's easier for us to look back and be like, man, I wish I did something different. I wish that I had a different outcome. Why did I do whatever the decision you made, right? Like, it's easier for us to do that because we have more insight and clarity sometimes. So it's also important for you to be thinking about, what advice would you have given to your younger self? And not from a place, if you're not new to mental health moment, I always talk about the self-claim game that hopefully we're not going to do. This is the, like, no judgment zone, right? For ourselves, a mental health moment. But thinking about what advice you would give yourself, but not from a place of self-blame. So not from a place of, um why couldn't I, why did I make that decision, like, not from that place, but instead from a place of, like, okay, this is the advice I would give my younger self, right? One of the pieces of advice that I would definitely have given my younger self was to focus on self-care, in addition to the hustle culture and the, work hard, all those things. Like, working hard is extremely important, of course, but also I would have told my younger self, please, girl, pay attention to your mental health and wellness, and please, like, take a moment for yourself, and please focus on your mental health too, and not run yourself into the ground. Like, that is literally advice I would have given to my younger self. All right, so let me know again in the comments. Hopefully, I can still see the comments because technology is going to do whatever it wants to do. But let me know in the comments, what advice would you give to your younger self? So the first thing, when we think about, again, today's topic is about having a corrective emotional experience. This is actually, I just think it's a really cool thing in the field of psychology to think about this, because, again, yes, we cannot change the past. However, we can change our view of it. So the first tip I want to, leave you with here today is thinking about whatever story you're telling yourself. All of us are telling ourselves a story. What do you notice in the patterns of those stories? Because sometimes a situation happens to us or for us, depending on how you look at it, and we tell ourselves a story about that situation. So we might be like, man, something happened because I wasn't good enough. That is a very common theme, actually, that I wasn't good enough, or I didn't deserve, fill in the blank. I didn't deserve that promotion. I didn't deserve that situation. I didn't deserve heartbreaking relationship. I didn't, whatever the situation is, we start to tell ourselves a story, right? But yeah, someone said watching live from Africa. Welcome. We start to tell ourselves a story. So the first thing, it's really all about self-awareness, y'all. Like, if I could write, like, I write a lot of books, but if I had, like, a one page only to share, one of the biggest things for you, I hope a goal for you, is really to think about self-awareness. With a lot of things, it's very easy to be distracted, as I always say, with everything happening around you. But when you hone in on, what is it that you're telling yourself? What is your self-talk? What story have you told yourself? I'm not saying it's true or false. Sometimes it is true, and sometimes, well, a lot of times we distort things because of our emotions. But what story are you telling yourself, right? What patterns are you seeing? Someone said, you oh, I love that. The advice they would give to their younger self, they said, you were as smart as you thought you were. Walk in that strength and don't be afraid to be strong. I really, really love that. So if you're just tuning in, I had asked earlier, what advice would you give to your younger self? And, to put it in the chat. And someone said that you were as smart as you thought you were, and walk in that strength and don't be afraid to be strong. It's so funny, because of I've heard a lot of stories, actually, thousands and thousands of stories throughout my career. But what's so fascinating is I hear that a lot. like that people would tell their younger selves not to have as much fear as they have. Actually, I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna add that to my list too, girl. But it's so true. Like there's so many times, and I'll go to the next tip in a minute. But there's so many times when we have so much fear, you all. Like we and it's like it makes sense at the time, but then we look back later on and we're like, why do we have so much fear? Like why did we feel that way? And things worked out okay, right? Like there's not everything's gonna work out okay, but there's a lot of things that really do work out okay. And we look back and we're like, why do we worry about that? Right? Why do we have so much fear? Because it worked out. So thank you for sharing that. I love that. Um, and so if you're just tuning in, by the way, let me know where you're tuning in from today in the chat. Today, or I reside in the Tampa Bay area of Florida. If you missed the beginning of the live, which I was on very late today, it's because, like I was telling you, there's a whole lot of things happening all in one day. I don't know if y'all ever have days like this, but one of the things that also happened was basically a huge plumbing emergency in my house. So I am slightly displaced temporarily, but it's all good. I'm safe. I'm in a hotel and it's all good. But yes, that made me very late to today's live dealing with all that. Someone said, oh, I love that. Someone said the advice I would give to their younger self is also, you were good enough. Ooh, that's so powerful. Let me tell you, that is extremely powerful because, there's so many situations in our lives that we really might look at thinking we're not good enough. That is not true. That's just, it's just not, right? It's not true. It's a story that we tell ourselves oftentimes. Yes, can we be better? Of course, we can all be better versions of ourselves, but a lot of times we lie to ourselves and say we're not good enough, and all these negative things, like the negative self-talk, and a lot of times it is not true. Right? Just because you think something does not make it true. It feels like it though, because you're like, well, it's in my brain, I'm thinking it. But it's not. It's just not always true. We distort our reality all the time, especially with strong emotions, which is why we're talking today about having a corrective emotional experience. You like, and it's harder, let me be honest, it is harder with certain situations than others, right? Like there's just things that happen in our lives. Some things are easy to deal with, some things are hard. Some things we get over in a week, some things it takes years, right? Like that's normal, but there are certain situations when you look at it, you can look back and be like, wait a minute, let me think about it in a different way, right? Let me think about who I was in that situation in a different way. Let me think about how I got through, right? Like how I was resilient. We talk a lot about resilience. Like there's so many things that you can tell yourself about a situation to have what we call a corrective emotional experience. Hi from London, UK. Welcome. Texas is in the house. Welcome. Someone said the future is brighter than you think. They're from Harlem, New York. Welcome, welcome. I love that too. That's so nice. So if you're just tuning in, by the way, and you're like, what are all these comments here? So today's question that I was asking you all is to put in the comments, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self? Because a lot of times too, I think all of us are guilty at some point, like we can be really self-critical. And again, it's easy, especially with strong emotions, it's easy to be very critical of our decisions and what happens and different outcomes. But then we look back later on, or we look back after the fact, right? And we realize, like that person said in the chat, maybe we had a gloom and doom mentality, or we were questioning some things, but then you see right here in the future, and you see like the future was a lot brighter than you thought it was going to be, and it did work out. Boston's in the house. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining here. Someone said advice to younger self: look after yourself first, listen to successful elders, and plan for the future better. Yes. Ooh. How many of you wish you could turn back the hands of time? Some things I do wish. I'm like, man, like why wasn't I this smart like 20 years ago? I ask myself that a lot. But no, I love that. I love that piece of advice. To really look after yourself first, listen to successful elders, and plan for the future better. Because again, this is like, so if you're new to Mental Health Moment, hello, we're here every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. No, but this has been a theme this year, by the way, guys, is like 10 years of Mental Health Moment, which is so crazy. I can't believe the time flew by that fast. But um, this is like a theme, I feel like, a mental health moment. I've really, in a lot of my books and a lot of different things I do, I'm really working on, it's a process and a journey, but putting yourself first, just like that person said, it is, It is so, so easy to get distracted by everybody else around you, everything else you're seeing on social media, everything else that's happening in the world. Like every day is something, right? We're like, wait, what? It's some news, something. So there's a lot of distractions, but also where are you at with your own mental health, right? And today, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about having a corrected emotional experience. The other thing I wanted to share with you is, you know, well, you have to give yourself permission also. I will say that when it comes to having a corrective emotional experience. So, the second tip of the day is really allowing yourself to experience the situation differently. Like you are allowed to look back at a situation and have different emotions attached to it. You are allowed. If no one told you today, I am telling you, you are allowed. So there may have been a situation in your life, maybe it's something recent, maybe something from childhood, maybe something 10 years ago, whenever it was, where you were dwelling on it because back then when the situation happened, you had fear or you had, sadness or you had anger or whatever it is that you felt, right? And sometimes, right, we're all guilty. Sometimes we carry those emotions for a long time, right? It saddens me. Actually, I've met a lot of people that care like so much anger and so much resentment for like years and years and years. That makes me really sad, actually, because that just deteriorates your mental health and your physical health. But that's a whole nother topic for another mental health moment. But the point is, like, it is possible to heal. It is possible to heal. It is possible for you to think of that said situation in a different way, right? Like if you, let's say something happened 10 years ago, well, in theory, you're probably a different person 10 years later, right? So you can look back and like, you know what? Fill in the blank. Like, tell yourself a different story. Maybe you're like, I was young and dumb, right? Like, or maybe you're like, I didn't understand what I do today. Great. You learned, right? Or you can say, I look back at this situation and I wish I acted differently, but here's the lessons I learned from that. Right. Like you are allowed to tell yourself those things, right? Because that was actually my third tip. But to really, sort of rewrite the meaning of what it is that happened to you. And now we cannot, like I said, I wish, well, maybe there's some time machine out there, y'all. But as far as I know, we can't go back in the past and change the past yet until AI, some crazy machine comes about, I guess. So you cannot change the facts of whatever it is happened in your past, but you can change the meaning that you attach to that, right? It's like, and I'm a writer, so I'm always thinking about books. It's like if you had a book, right? You start writing certain chapters of your life. You think you know how the book's going to end, but because you're allowed to go back in those chapters, you're like, you know what? This is what I learned about myself. I was a stronger person because this situation happened. Now I'm more resilient. Now I have a better mindset. Now I take care of myself better. Now I know how to take care of others better. Now I learned from that horrible relationship. Now I learned from that toxic work environment. Now I learned from my spiritual epiphany, whatever, like whatever, right? Like there's things that happen and you go, oh, I learned from these things. Like, what are the lessons you learn? Because I'm not wishing bad on any of y'all. I'm not. But sometimes some of the adversity you go through and the lessons that you gain from that said adversity make you into a better person, right? It can also tear you down. We are hoping on the job moment that doesn't happen here, right? Because I mean, I'm not saying this is the easiest thing always, but there are ways you can heal, many ways you can heal and become a better version because of said experience. I've met, like I said, thousands and thousands and thousands of people literally from around the world, whether I was speaking at a conference, whether I was in my clinical work or wherever. Like I've met a lot of people and I like it's so cool to see the resilience and the strength of people. And like hearing stories, I'm like, you went through what? And they're like this like amazing person, right? Because and again I'm not saying it's the easiest thing, but because they took the time to heal. Sometimes it was with self-help, sometimes it was books, sometimes it was a podcast, sometimes it was mental health therapy, sometimes it was medication. Like there's all different sorts of ways to heal, but they took the time to engage in that, right? And tell themselves a different story. um someone said someone said advice. So if you're just tuning in, we were talking about in the chat, like what piece of advice would you give to your younger self? Someone said, whatever it is all right. Ooh, that's actually really powerful. Oh my God. To have that sort of a mindset, like it's funny, like I wish I had that too, actually in my younger years. But like when you maybe it comes from spiritual views too, but like if you really get to the point mentally where you can be like, whatever it is happening to me, like I'm gonna be okay, like I will be all right, I will get through. That's a very powerful way to live. It is a very powerful way. Not to say that things aren't gonna hurt you and you won't be affected by things, like we're human, right? But like when you really have that to be like, I know that everything's gonna be okay. Like that's powerful. I love that. Whoever wrote that. Thank you. Um, Someone else said everything is not always critical. Stop, breathe, and think about it before reacting. Yes. Oh my gosh. You all, have you guys heard? I talked about it on Mental Health Moment before, but of this thing called urgency culture, right? Where like we have to be really careful because every single thing is not urgent that's happening. Every single text message or email or phone call or whatever it is, FaceTime, like everything is not urgent. Like we're allowed to like take a moment before we respond to someone. We're allowed to think before we send certain emails. Maybe it's work related or whatever it is. We're allowed to do that. But it feels sometimes because we're sometimes in just very chaotic situations that everything's urgent, right? But someone just said, yeah, everything is not critical. I agree. Someone said staying in a position that oh wait, staying in a position that benefited someone. Okay, I think that was something I said earlier. My bad. I'm just not reading some of these comments. Good evening to you as well. Someone said it's okay not to be okay. I like my own company and need the space to do that. That is also something that is man, that's a whole nother mental health moment. That's also something that's very critical to understand that it is okay not to be okay sometimes because I think just the work I've done with a lot of very successful people, meeting like very successful people, very, very high achievers, and not just that, like it's everybody though. And it's like this thought that everything has to be perfect, everything has to be going well all the time. And it's like, no, that's not true. Very unrealistic to think like that. It is okay not to be okay some of the time. Now, at the same time, obviously, we need to function and take care of our responsibilities. But some of the time, it's okay not to be okay, right? So that's good. That's good. Someone said, when I turned 21, I addressed everything and everyone that had a negative impact so that I can live free. And it was the best thing I did. Wow. When you turn 21, that was extremely mature of you, by the way. 21 to me is like super young. So to have that level of insight is very amazing. Congratulations. That is really cool to do. Most people aren't doing that until they're like, I don't know, 51, 61 or something. So very cool. Very cool. Um, so, someone said the fact that you to start keeping this platform open despite of your plumbing issue, keep it moving is a good thing. Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. If you're just tuning in, you're like, what in the world is that person talking about? Yeah. So I'll spare you all the details, but just a major plumbing emergency issue in the house today. Why not? I don't have anything else to do. Right. I'm laughing now. I probably won't laugh tomorrow when I find out what exactly is all going on. So nonetheless, they're coming out tomorrow, which is why I got slightly temporarily displaced, but I'm still here with y'all. I'm still here with y'all. I try my best not to miss mental health moment unless I'm on a flight, which for now I'm not able to do mental health moment. Although I did hear a rumor, I don't know, I never know, I don't know if it's just me, but I never know what is reputable anymore online. Sometimes like you see things in social media, you're like, is that true? Is that AI? Like it's a lot. But I did see somewhere on something that they might allow like calls or something like that, or Wi-Fi or like Wi-Fi calls or something like that on planes, which would be really weird. Where like you could take a meeting. So I'm like, oh, okay, so I could do mental health moment on a plane. Like that's the first thing I thought of. I don't know if that's true. I'm not spreading that information because I don't know if it's true, but I was like, that'd be interesting. But also probably very annoying to constantly be hearing people on their phone calls. So we'll see. I don't know. Anyways, the point is, I try not to miss on today's mental health moment. I'm digressing. Okay. Someone said, I'm not alone because I did something. I'm not alone because I did something wrong, I think is what you're saying. Very, very true. Someone said, example, when you're in a company, you have opportunity to be cross trained and the manager wants you where you are. Ooh, or career advancement within. Yes. Oh, correction. Sorry. I'm not alone because I did something wrong. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I got you. I got you. Yeah. And that's, ooh, gosh, that's a whole nother mental health moment. You guys are like sharing such great things. It makes me think of like a whole nother episode, a mental health moment. But I'll address that one first where you said, I'm not alone because I did something wrong. Very true. Sometimes we tell, like, we make connections of things that are not like we associate things together that have nothing to do with one another. And that's a really great example of sometimes like it's like we think we're being punished for something we did when it's like that has nothing to do with that, right? But again, like I know I talk so much about mindset. We've been doing this for a long time, right? But it really is your mindset, you all. It really is the self-talk. It really is what are you telling yourself? Like the stories you're telling yourself. You have to like rewrite certain stories sometimes. And again, I think of a book because I'm a writer, but like when you have the certain chapters that have happened to you, right? Like there's things that happen. You still get to decide you still get to decide how you tell yourself the meaning of what has happened to you. That you get to control. We cannot always control what I did not listen. I wish I could have controlled that little plumbing situation today, which was a disaster. But I could not, right? But we there's certain things, of course, that are way outside of our control. But one of the things that is within our control many times is working on giving new meaning to the things that happen, right? I tried my best today, for example, as much as like I said tomorrow. When I find out what is going on, I might not be as happy. But today I went into a mode of like, okay, what am I grateful for? Because I think I literally thought about, I was like, man, I accidentally was taking clean water for granted. I didn't even realize it until you missed that water. I was like, oh, like I could easily take a shower, like grateful for that. I could easily run water in my kitchen or flush a toilet or like all the things that, require water. And that's just not, it wasn't something I was really thinking about on a daily basis. And then when everything went haywire in the household with the plumbing issue, then it's like, oh, wait a minute. Like I have to rewrite the story now. I'm like, wait a minute, I need to work on, right? Like my gratitude. And like, that's a thing I was thinking instead of like, a woe is me. Right. So and again, this is just one example, but again, it's about the things that happen in your life. What do you take from that? What meaning do you take? What lessons do you take? How can you be a better person from that situation? How has it shaped you into a better person? Like thinking like that instead of really going into self blame, going into the anger, going into anxiety, going into extreme sadness. Now, big asterisk, because I am trained in the clinical world, there are certain things that if it's just too difficult for you, it is very understandable. There are some difficult things that just happen, and you might be like, you know what? I need the help of my friend, of someone at a place of worship, of a mental health professional, of some type of program. Like there are many different ways, like I mentioned before, of healing. Um, but most importantly, it's thinking about how do I have that corrective emotional experience, right? How do I rewrite things? And then someone else said, you said, for example, when you're in a company, you have an opportunity to be crushing and manager wants you where you are or career advancement within. Absolutely. I think that was a little earlier too. I'm sorry. I'm just seeing some of these comments are coming in late for example. Or I said, for example, some of these comments are coming in late. I was reading your comments here, so I think it was connected to something else I was saying earlier. But thank you for sharing that for sure. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you as well. If you're just tuning in, we're about to wrap up. But if you're just tuning in, we were talking today about how you can have a corrective emotional experience. Gave a couple tips on that. I appreciate you all sharing too. Like what are things you would tell your younger self? Was a piece of advice you would share with your younger self. I think it's very important too. And sometimes even the things that we would say to our younger selves, are we taking that same advice now? Right. So maybe you said, okay, this is something I would have told myself 10, 20 years ago or however long ago. But what about now? Right. Are you taking that piece of advice now? So I'll leave you with that for you to discover for yourself. Is this something I'm taking this advice now? Because again, we can't change the past, but we can change the meaning attached to it. But if you're just tuning in when we're wrapping up here, you can always catch all the replays on Mental Health Moment on Dr. Nekeshia Hammond YouTube page. They're all on there. And I am here hopefully next week, not with a plumbing crisis issue thing. But I am here every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here live on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. Be blessed. Good evening to you as well. Be blessed. Have an amazing week. I will be back next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Have an amazing week, y'all. Take care.